Catch Texas in Color every Wednesday morning at 11 a.m. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel.
Well, I want to say good morning to everyone out there. It is a beautiful fall morning.
Just a second. We're almost there.
We're almost there. We're sliding into the holidays. Happy holidays to
we are.
Yes. God bless you.
All right, everybody. This is Ronald Gordon along with George Green. Dr. Veronica Brooks will be joining us later on. And just want to say good morning to everybody. And George, I love this weather. So
well, yes, it's from your home place up north. This is pretty nice for us here in Texas. We're gritting our teeth, this up and down weather. We like to get a cold frost in here to kill some of these bugs, but
yeah. You know, it was funny. I was in my garage the other day straightening up, and I got bit by a mosquito. I said, where are they coming from?
Oh, yeah.
But that was before it got cool outside. Well, I know they're not going anywhere now. Speaking about the weather and things going to get hot, things going to get pretty heated up come January when the state, everybody meet and they go over the bills they want to pass and all that good stuff. But we're going to concentrate on DEI today, because not only is it going to affect the schools, it's going to affect some state government offices and everything. It's going to affect the whole state. And let me read something right here. Republican Carl Tepper from Lubbock want to prohibit county school districts, state agencies, and any other government entity from establishing diversity, equal, and inclusion offices. So what he's saying, we don't want them offices anymore. We don't need it anymore. And then Representative Terry Wilson prohibit government entities from requiring job applications to provide diversity, equality, and inclusion statements. So they want to get rid of all that, just chunk it out. They want everybody to start from scratch on how they feel it should be. But they got to remember, if the reason why that was in effect to give the minorities a chance to enter into school and law and all that, because all of us is not born with that money. And we need that chance to be on equal standings. And if we're not on equal standings, we're going to roll back right what it does in the 50s, where only the elite could be able to go to these schools and to do all that. So what's your opinion about that, George?
Well, I'm like a lot of people. Whenever I read that and really, combed down to the nitty gritty of what this bill is saying, it's shocking. First off, diversity, equity, and inclusion. What is that? A lot of people don't even know what it is, and these are people that are quote unquote in the know. We were discussing it yesterday at length. Diversity, okay, they can get equity. Yeah, they can see that. The inclusion part is, it's like, what does that mean? So that was just from the beginning. What all does DEI mean? We've been discussing it. When I say we, myself, and I've been in some other interest groups that's been discussing this. I'd say for the last year, maybe 2 years at least. So we've heard of it, but nobody really knows what it means. But after you read down through the bill, you can kind of see the broad coverage of that. It gets down to, I work for a state agency, the Criminal Justice Department, probably one of the largest in the state of Texas. And when you're hiring people, you've got to, cross all those T's and dot those I's.
Right.
We didn't have to, at that time, DEI wasn't spelled out like it is now. And my point to where I'm going is, we had hub businesses, historically underutilized businesses that we, the state, had to open up, any part of the business that we had. And that includes women-owned businesses too. So that's the other thing that people are not getting. We had a lot of businesses that were formed by women, headed by women, and when it comes to getting some of that state business, they got an opening, a heads up, if you would. So
Yeah.
a lot of women benefited from it, not only people of color, but all. So when you go to looking at this in January, it's already passed. But when you go to looking at this in 2025, it's going to take a lot of people by surprise.
Yeah, because I'm looking at it right here. That was Senate Bill 17, um, require all public universities with DEI. All that's going to cease. The law is set up to go into effect January 1st. Many Texas public universities and have already begun ramping down their DEI practices and programs after government chief of staff sent a memo in February calling DEI hiring illegal. I mean, it is right here. I'm reading it in black and white. So I don't know if my opinion or what I'm getting ready to say, DEI has never been out on the public platform like it has been in the past 2 or 3 years. And to me, it's like a dog whistle saying minorities, that's it. You are no more getting a chance to do what you wanted to do. This is what we're doing. Am I reading that right or am I off kilter somewhere?
No, I think you're reading it right, Ronald. That's okay. I was in the state agency in the year 2000. Okay, here we are, 2024. It is doing in effect what you're saying. Before, when we were hiring, DEI was not even talked about. We talked about diversity. Okay, that we understood, and that's why I said at the beginning, diversity we understand and we can deal with. Um, but here, the past, I don't know, I want to say 5 years, maybe not even that long, but this DEI has raised its head, and it, in effect, what it's doing, Ronald, with what you said, it's going back and it's just brushing away any of the gains that have been made for people of color and even women for that, from that standpoint. So yeah, this is new, fairly new to most people, brand new,
Yeah.
and like I said, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, because we know the Republican Party, they're in charge of the state and all that's going on. This is something they want to do. But what they fail to look at, it's going to hurt some people in their own party of color. It's not going to stop with just the Democratic side. This is Texas. It's going to affect all minority Texas, regardless if you're independent, Democrat, or Republican. It's going to affect us all. So once that go into effect, they're going to see the repercussions sooner than what they think. Because even though they fought for this and they want it, now they're going to implement it. So, what strategies do you think they have when the repercussion come and hit hard at them? They're just going to just turn the blind eye and say, "Oh, y'all don't know what y'all talking about," or are they going to really take it serious?
Well, they I've already seen some fallout, uh, personally, relatives, and even friends from the universities on down, and they've already pulled up their camp, and they've moved on. Um, so it's we're just beginning to see that. I think as we get into 2025 and more of this is rolled out, and the governor expresses his wants and demands, I guess you could say now. um, we'll see more of the effect. But all the more reason, Ronald, what I really stress that people get involved with their political officials, and getting to know as much as you can, because these things usually they're talked about 2 to 4 years ahead of time. And
Hmm.
so, this DEI and these Senate bills and House bills, uh, you know, the Senate Bill 17 has already been passed, so
Yeah.
it's all after the fact now. So,
Yeah. One question before I move on about that. How many jobs is this going to affect? Because a lot of people are going to lose their job. So have they looked at that aspect that jobs are also going to be taken away come January 1st?
I don't believe that they've really drilled down and took into account the number of jobs that this is going to affect. I don't think they have. At least I'm not aware of it. But it's in the thousands. That's a guess on my part. When you start looking at private entities, particularly public entities, these state agencies, these school districts, the universities, it's going to have a tremendous effect. And people, they're not liking it, they don't want it, but hey, it's already, you know the cow's out of the corral, so to speak, so it's already
Yeah.
done.
So it's not going to hurt the private sector. They do not have to follow that because they're not a state agency or anything. But what will hurt them if they get how I get it, state revenue to help fund their business, they may get them that away. You know what I mean?
And that's exactly it, Ronald. It is going to affect them on the private side, because of that very thing. And if the private side is looking at, hey, the governmental entity and the governor are saying, you know to do away with diversity, equity, and inclusion, guess what? They're not going to be pressed to hire any kind of diversity then. And this whole thing could have been avoided if they would just hire the people for the right reason.
Mm.
You get qualified candidates of all creeds and color, and they will not hire them. So that's why we came out with these laws to begin with. Now we're going back.
See, here's some of the things that SB 17 on this says does not affect. Um SB 17 does not supersede any federal law, including Title 6 and Title 9, which requires instructions to take to prevent any discrimination. Also in the classrooms, um, they are not to even talk about it. I said, you kidding me? I'm reading this right now. And student organization activities can continue. SB 17 does not impact the ability of university affiliated students, organizations to offer activity, training, and programs designed to address a topic related to any race, creed, or color, sex, gender, identity, and sexuality. Wow.
Well, I'll, I'll say this: there's it does not supersede any federal law. All right, and
Yeah.
you now, it's going to take some education uh, in order to weed through some of these state laws and these federal laws, and what they can do, what they can't do. So it is going to take quite a bit of education out there. These human rights, not human rights, but our human resources department, they're going to have their hands full
Yeah.
working through uh, some of these these laws. So to be sure that everyone is abiding by those laws, because funding, ultimately funding is impacted if it's seen that you're not following that law, and they're going to be reviewed every year from what I've heard. So they're going to have to really be on their toes to see that they're following the line.
Okay, here's SB 17, things that are going to be affected. Hiring board cannot consider race or sex required diversity statement. Universities cannot solicit or consider diversity statement in the faculty hiring process. So it means you can't even bring that up basically. There's no more mandatory DIA training for staff. No training for that. You know, what gets me is they finding all the things you can't do, but what are the things they're replacing that you can do? Because somewhere along the line, somebody's going to find a loophole and do some things, and they're going to rush the judgment to pass another bill. I see that coming because, yeah, all laws should be written where everything is right there, but somebody seems to always find a loophole in that. And if they find that loophole, which I'm pretty sure somebody's looking right now, will they rush to a special section to close that loophole?
Well, would they? It just depends upon how pressing of an issue it is with our legislators. You know, they can go through special session after special session after special session if it's something that's really, burning their heartstrings, so to speak. So we'll have to see on that one. But these when you're a governmental entity and you're hiring people and you're to follow all these rules and they're still violated. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
They still violate the laws. That's why we're dealing with what we're dealing with. So if they get caught, then that's where, it gets sticky. But yeah, we have all these regs and all these
Mhm.
laws, and they're still violated. So we just got to be more careful of what we do.
So I'm just going into a glass bubble right now and foreseeing what's going to happen in the future. Um, will there be a decline in minorities going to state schools and universities? Will it be a decline in getting minorities in some of these state agencies hired? Is that their way of saying we can hire who we want to hire? And would they be able to use that as an excuse saying because the color of your skin, we're not hiring you? To me, that's what it boiling down to in a way. I'm not saying that they are, but there's no guardrail saying that they won't.
Correct. You know, I've said, and I hope it doesn't lead to that, Ronald. I hope we don't see a decline in people of color in positions, in all level of positions. I hope that does not happen. We work so hard to get people of color, qualified people of color, into these positions. So I hope it doesn't. Uh, I think we have to be guarded on that and just see what the net effect of this is going to be in another year or two. Maybe want to take that long down the road
Yeah.
to see how those numbers are panning out. But again, I go back to, if people would do the right thing and hire the right person for the right reason with the qualifications, and get away from the good old boy type of hiring, we wouldn't have to be going through this. But people are people, so therefore we're dealing with Senate Bill 17.
I got this guy that comes on my show. He says it really great. He says fear, phobia, and greed. And what are they fearing of? That they have to go and do the drastic measures to make sure that we are set in our spot. We can't move from it. Because if you think about it, that's almost like it was back in the days that you couldn't look them straight in the eye. You had always had your head bowed. And so are we going back to that? Because I feel that we are so much going backwards. It's just a crying shame. And another thing I'm gonna point out, since the election and all this going on, entitlement has really went up in the air. Because I watched people the other day, they could talk to anybody any way they want because, hey, we won, so we could do whatever we want to do. And entitlement is getting a little bit out of hand, what I've been seeing in my area. And it's almost laughable for you to come up and talk to me like that. Have you lost your mind? You know?
Yeah, I can. I can. We go back to 1960, okay, and fast forward to today. Things, instead of things getting better, they're getting worse. One thing I will say, um, what people didn't want to talk about 10 years ago, I'll say, they didn't want to talk about racism. They wanted to kind of, bury their head. I know that for a fact because I had to deal with my city manager on the same thing. They wanted to bury their head and act like or play like or pretend like it doesn't exist. Now you got the president of the United States and everyone on down talking about racism and this and the issues. Okay, it's out there now. And almost it's out there to the fact that, like you said, they can, many of them feel they can act or do whatever they want to do, say whatever they want to say, and in case Sarah, Sarah. It's still, you can come up with all the laws you want to come up with. It's in a person's heart to do the right thing, and how you were raised and how you were educated and so on and so forth. That's what helps make you do the right thing. They can come up with any and every kind of law they want to. It's within your heart and how you feel and how you relate to the powers above as to whether you can sleep at night.
Well, with this DEI coming in, we already know they're stripping the libraries of books that they feel that the kids should not, they don't feel is right for them. That's their opinion. But the same ones who voted for that are the same ones who was able to read any book they wanted to read. Now all of a sudden it's a problem. Now, are they trying to take the history away so they don't know? And people got to realize sometimes if we don't watch it, we repeat the history. If we don't know what the history was, how can we move forward? And so basically they want to lock us in this bubble saying, all right, history as you know it does not exist. For you could pick up anything back in the days we were reading, um history in the books, the blacks may have had maybe one or two paragraphs, and I'm not exaggerating, and that was it. We're more than that. So they want to cut that out. And with them, with this DEI now, they got control almost anything that they want to do. And how can we move on from that?
Well, we will move on from that. I think this whole library thing, I find it interesting. Okay, here we are trying to take books out of public libraries, but the prison system, they're adding books onto their library. I don't know if you've been around a library before, but they get all the books that they need pretty much in there. But on the public side, we're taking books away. I think we should focus on the basics when it comes to education, reading, writing, and arithmetic.
Exactly.
There's nothing those kids, and this is my opinion. There's nothing those kids can't get um, from a library that they can get on their cell phones. And so, you try to pull books out of a public library. Those kids can get more stuff on a cell phone than you even dreamed. So
Hmm.
a lot of time and energy and effort going when it could be redirected. Now, if that's what they want to do, that's fine. It's their time, their energy. But really, these kids can get more than we even thought about.
Yeah. I'm gonna go back to the DEI because this question, I had it written down. I just found it. So let's say I go into a place, a state agency. I'm more than qualified for that job, but they turned me down. But they hired a white man that was less educated than I was. Does that DEI throws out I can't sue them for discrimination?
Well, that's that. I'm not an attorney, so that is a legal question. As a layman, I would say you still have all the rights and privileges the federal laws. Remember, this does not supersede the federal laws. So
Hmm.
you got to keep that in mind. And I'm sure attorneys are out there. They are, they're smiling from ear to ear, saying, "Hey, this is more work for us." So
Yeah.
yeah, I think they need to keep in mind, you know, what we're doing here does not supersede any of the federal laws that are already in existence.
So how is I'm just curious. I know you're not a lawyer. I'm just talking. So if it does go to the federal and the person win the suit saying he was discriminated, that does not mean on state level they still have to hire him.
Correct. That's correct. And it's kind of crazy, but if you're a person of integrity, it's a point that you want to make. And that scenario that you just laid out, it goes on all the time. It goes on all the time, and in these human resources departments, as much as they try to avoid that, it still does. Diversity and equity and inclusion. It's eh, we There's some people here just passed a law saying they want to do away with it. Does not mean it's a bad thing. Uh, but then you need to comb down a little bit lower and see what they mean by inclusion. Who all are they talking about including? And I think that's what kind of gets some of them worked up.
Well, um, who does include minorities? I mean, the writing's on the wall. They should not even implemented this, but they went on and did it. And then the other day, I heard that they want to start suing for, get this, reverse discrimination. Reverse discrimination. You kidding me? I don't get it. I talked to somebody the other day. He came up to me. We were talking. He said, "Well, why is it that y'all people?" I said, "Oh, whoa, hold it. Let's talk like you have some sense right here. Say what you really mean, but out belittling me right here. Just talk to me like you talk to anybody else." He said, "Well, I want to know why black people have to have their own BET. I want to know why black people have to have their own award show." I said, "Because you've been having your show for years and wasn't including us." And he stopped. He thought a little bit. I said, "Now go back and think about it. Just, I want you to go back to the 60s and you think about how many blacks was included in some of the award ceremonies and all that stuff that went on that was national with music and movies. Just think about it. He sat there and he said, I can't remember any. I said, so you want to know why we have our own show? That is the reason we do that, to give honor to the people who fought for us to get where we're at right now. And now all this gonna be taken away in one swoop come January 1st. And he looked at me and said, well, I think you're thinking a little bit too much, leading too much into this. I said, well, I just looked at him. I said, I got one thing to ask you. He said, what's that? I said, have you ever been black? And he said, no. I said, so you don't know my struggles. You don't know what I'm talking about. Until you ever live or work or walk in my shoes, you will never understand. And he said, well, we agree to disagree. I mean, it never got heated, but we agree to disagree. I think I sort of jogged something in him because he sort of looked at me and he never thought of things the way I was breaking it down to him. Because they don't go through the things that we go through and that we are still going through. And with DEI here, we're going to go through some more, not just blacks. You got your Asians, you got your Hispanics, you got all the minorities going to go through the same thing. And it's going to affect the state of Texas a lot more than what they think it's going to affect.
Yeah, it is, Ronald, and you know, as much as we try to impress upon them the need for some of the things that we do have, they don't get it. I've got, you know, friends, white friends, that male, you know, I can talk with them till I'm blue in the face. They still don't get it, and they'll never get it because they've never been black or brown to have to walk in our shoes, and those are some things that they'll never be able to relate to. You have some that'll be empathetic to what what we're doing and why we're doing it, uh, but they can't relate. You can't, as a child, when you're born into this. I'm gonna say Texas, for instance. You're born into Texas. You see, at least when I was coming up, I saw very little of someone of our color that was doing anything. We're talking about back in the 50s and 60s. I think
Yeah.
the we had was a dog catcher. He great man, but nobody really wanted to aspire to be a dog catcher. And we never had any of that positive influence, professional positive influence, all growing up. That affects us mentally. It affects a young girl or a young boy mentally, in that they don't care about reading, they don't value education, they don't, and that was me, and so you just do enough just to get by, both male and female. Lucky if you don't get pregnant and drop out if you're female. So that's why we're doing some of the things that we do, and our white counterparts. I try to get them to understand, or at least empathize with what I'm doing. It's for these younger kids that are coming up, rather than watching. Not all of us have the talent to play football or basketball or any of those other sports, but to see a professional of color, hence Texas in color, people doing what you're doing, what I'm doing, to give these young ones some kind of a positive role model, if you would, something
Yeah.
they can look forward to being and emulating one day.
You just said something that was powerful right there when you said that you try to talk to them, they just don't understand. And my point for that is, in a way, they do understand. That's why they're scared of us, because they're seeing that we are real resilient in what we do. No matter what happens, we're resilient. We know how to come back and do things. We don't buckle down. You know, if you made $50,000 that one year, everything was good, and then all of a sudden you broke down to $30,000 a year, most of the time we don't live above our means. We learn how to turn around. Okay, So we got cut back on this, and this, and we do that. And so we are survivors. And for them to not understand, I think in a way they understand, but they scared to death. This one guy said it to me one time. He said, I understand what y'all been going through. We're just scared when the blacks and the minorities come to being and it's more of them than it is of us, that y'all gonna treat us the same way we treated you.
Yeah.
So he turned around and told the truth. He knows they've been treating us bad. So, I look at it like that. When he told me that, I looked at it and said, so you actually know how we've been treated, but yet you're not doing nothing about it. I said, racism could end right now, today. He said, how's that? If our white counterparts admit we have a racist problem in the United States, we got people who are hiding that don't want to buck them and get in trouble for siding with us. So you got a double-edged sword. You know which way to go. And so he sat there and looked at me, and I said, if you get everybody together, we sit down at a table and we discuss what's going on, it'll open your eyes on the way we've been treated for all these years.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And if that would happen, then this diversity, equity, and inclusion thing, we wouldn't have to be dealing with this now. But we are, because that does not happen. So from this point forth, we not only people of color, but everybody, you got to get educated in what this DEI is, and who they are. I mean, you got to first get it all straight. I had people right here in New Braunfels talk about DEI that didn't even know what it was, and so we first got to at least get that done. That's step number one, and then we'll proceed ahead as to how to go about it, because we still have to fall within that federal law.
Yeah. So do you think that they turned around and used the DEI and they weaponized it? And so when you mention DEI, it's all negative things that they hear, the white people hear. DEI, oh no, you DEI. No, no, we don't like that. Like you said, they don't even know what it means. To
Yeah.
me, they weaponized those three letters right there, and it's all bad. That's all they see. It's all bad. And it's not. And like you just said, if we were treated equally across the board, we would not need DEI.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not equal across the board, and that's why DEI is there, to make sure there's some boundaries there. And they're stripping those boundaries away, and I hate to say it, they're gonna run amok. They're just gonna just run and do what they want to do, say what they want to say, and they're gonna lose a lot of good talent by not hiring minorities.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. I think when, and I'm putting myself in their shoes, they really don't care. Uh, and when it comes to putting the best teacher in front of their kids to teach their children, they don't care, because they're either going to pull their kids out of that school, or they're not going to hire that teacher, even though he or she's the best qualified.
Mhm.
They really, they don't care, and it's been proven, in my experience. So it's got to be something else that they fear. Maybe it's just us, like you were saying, Ronald. I don't know,
Yeah.
but but in any event, we got to keep on keeping on.
Okay, my question is this. All right, January 1st, it takes effect. What's gonna stop them from reevaluating some minorities who's in the government offices and stuff, and say, well, you gotta go? What's gonna stop them from using that tool? Even though they've been there for years, never had a problem, everything is good, all of a sudden you evaluate them and find one thing they feel like, well, you're not qualified for the job anymore.
Well, I've thought about that, and I that again, I think that's a good legal question, but I think that because of the legal ramification for that, uh, I, I think that'll be less apt to happen. I think once you're grandfathered in, you're in. It's from this point forward that I think where the damage is going to be done.
Hmm. And like you said, the good old boys. So what's going to stop them from hiring their uncle, their cousin, and auntie, and all that stuff is that law still in? What is that called? I can't think of the name of it. Where you can't hire family.
Oh, the
Um, is that nepotism?
that's nepotism. Yes.
Okay, yeah, yeah. So what's going to stop them from doing that?
Well, we've known about nepotism for a long time. We know the definition of what nepotism is, but they still go around it. so so it's people, only godly people are going to do the right thing, and like I said, we can come up with all the laws that we want to come up with. If they're going to do wrong, they're going to do wrong. We just need to try to hold them accountable a little bit, and
Yeah,
and get the best people hired that we can get, regardless.
yeah. It's a tough sell. I'm telling you, January 1st is right around the corner. So I'm going to see what's going to happen. I don't know if everybody put a hiring freeze on right now and wait till next year or what. Um, it's going to be very interesting to see how this is going to come to being. So, and then what are there 1900 bills they want to bring to the floor, something like that?
But there's 1,900 bills as we speak. We're probably wrong because there's more coming.
Yeah.
Uh, they will, in essence, or at least my representative tell me, they'll have in around 8,000 bills filed before before the period's over. That's a lot of bills, and
Man.
so a lot of work for them to do up in Austin. Even yet, it's more work for us to do here at the grassroots level. This last election, people should have read what the signals and what the meaning was out of this last election. You should, whoever you are, be in touch with some body that is in some level of political position that influences your life, and get familiar with them, talk to them or their staff, either one. But on a more reason, we have to be involved in this whole process. Otherwise, we are going to be left out of it. And your kids, your grandkids, your great grandkids, they're going to suffer. So please, people, get involved with a local group, uh, church. Well, church, they can and cannot get involved, but get involved with some body, some entity.
Is it safe to say that, like I'm telling people, don't worry about Washington, and then I'm telling them now, don't worry about what's going on in Austin. Worry about what's going on in your community. Start helping out your community because they're going to need our help. And we should start off locally. That's what I've been suggesting to everybody what to do. Am I right about it? I don't know. I'm just going back to old school days when we had that village, and we need to bring that village back and start helping out each other because once things trickle down, we're going to feel the effects. Gradually, we're going to feel it. It's not going to come all at once, but you're going to wake up a year from now saying, how did that happen? Because you weren't informed and educated what's going to happen. So like you said, Texas in Color is here to inform everybody what's going on in Texas. And it starts off with your local community and your local officials.
Yeah, yeah, Ronald, you are 100% right. And we keep feeding repetition is a way of learning, and we have to keep feeding that to our audience, and over and over and over. That's the way kids learn in school. And that's the way most of us do learn, is by repetition. And so um, you, myself, and others, Dr. Brooks, we need to keep feeding that out there. And they'll, some will pick it up, some may never pick it up, but it's your local people that has a direct influence on your life. I.e., if you have a dog and you don't have that dog under control, guess who's going to put a penalty on you if he gets out there and he does
Yeah.
to someone? That's how closely these local officials impact your life. So you can talk about the things up in DC and who's doing what and who's sleeping with who. It doesn't matter. It's what happens right here in your own neighborhood.
Yes, absolutely. Well, next week topic, you may like this next week topic. We're going to talk about schools. We're going to talk about that and the stuff they want to pass for that, all the changes they want in schools. Because it's a lot. I started reading it. It just blew my mind. It just blew my mind. Come on now, what are we doing here? So that's going to be our topic next. We're going to talk about school vouchers and some of the things they want the schools to do, and they're trying to bring religion back into the schools. So that right there is a heated discussion right there among anybody out there. So
Yeah.
that's what
Yes.
we're going to talk about next week. Is what's going on in our public schools. Not only our public schools, but our universities and colleges out there, because it's going to start affecting everybody.
Yes. Absolutely. Great. Great. A great one.
Yeah.
Another good one, Ronald.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I'll go ahead and let you go. And I don't know where you're going, but I hope you go out and get you a nice lunch or dinner somewhere.
Yeah. Steak. Steak.
Yeah, because you dressed to impress right now. You're gonna have me go put on my suit and tie.
Well, thank you, sir.
Mr. Green, like always, is a pleasure talking to you. Like I said, we all want the same thing, and it's just sometimes we go about it the wrong way, and sometimes we go about the right way. We meet in the middle, and we both want the same thing.
That's right.
So that's what it's all about.
That's right.
Yeah. All right, sir. I appreciate you coming on.
All right. So thank you,
All right.
and bless.
All right. You too.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for watching Texas in Color. Please tune in every Wednesday at 11 a.m. And please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification button so you'll be notified each and every time we go on live.